early childhood consultant, and she's going to be talking to us about test-taking strategies. Because you know very soon we're going to have the testing coming up for our students, especially in the elementary and the middle school. And we need to do good on those tests. We want to make a good score. And that's what the State Department of Education looks at. So we want our children to be ready when test-taking time comes. So at this time, we're going to have Ms. Watson to come in her own way.
I am Paula Watson, and since I am the early childhood consultant, I wanted to make you aware, and I've got some brochures. If you know folks that have little ones that are going to be 4 before September 1st or 5 before September 1st, we want to get them registered early and now for next school year, especially our children that are coming into 4K, because we have to do a screening with them, and we are hoping to do all that screening that we can now the last week in May. So we are having another pre-registration date in April. They're different depending on the elementary school, so there's some flyers, and if you know people, please take them and pass them around. Help us to get this word out, because we want to get as many kids registered now as we possibly can. I'm not sure how well y'all will be able to see my PowerPoint sitting over there. If you need to move, feel free to. I'm usually pretty relaxed because I'm used to working with the little people. This was a little out of my box, but I am a parent of 3 grown children now, and I have 5 grandchildren, so test taking is an important part of our lives. This is something kids have to do all throughout school. And I don't know about you, but my oldest had a lot of test anxiety, and I wish I had known a little bit more about this when he was going through, because he was one of those kids, and he's that way as an adult. He wants to be perfect all the time. And so I wish, like I said, that I had had some of this information for him. This really is just going to be some basic, I've got folders for everybody of some different things that I came across. This is real basic stuff, what you can do as parents, grandparents, to just help your children to feel a little bit more comfortable with test taking. Yes, test taking time is coming upon us, but, and I move around a lot, which bothers Mr. Patterson and his camera. I'm sorry, I'll try to stand still. Don't worry, it's not too late. If you haven't been doing these strategies yet, don't worry. You can still do it, because our children, yes, time is coming near for when these big high-stakes tests are coming up. But I think if you start incorporating some of these things now, that they will be very helpful. And what I've done is I've just gone through, I've gone to a lot of different websites, and I just did a Google search on test-taking skills, things that parents can do to help. So you can do that at home as well. But these are just some of the basic things that seem to be in almost every single resource that I took a look at. And so I put them in order, and our number 1 is to make sure your child does all their homework and daily reading assignments. And probably the most important thing that you can do with your child is read, read, read. Get those kids reading, because if they cannot read the directions, if they cannot read the questions on the test, and if they cannot understand what those questions are on the test, they're not going to be able to answer successfully. So read, read, read. And make sure your children do have a time to do their homework. I was never the kind of parent that sat there at the table and said, okay, we're on number 1, now we're on number 2. It was their responsibility to do their homework, but I made sure that it was accomplished. Number 2, encourage your child to space out their studying and their homework assignments so they don't have to cram the night before a test. I remember even myself, I would sit there the night before a test and try to cram all this stuff. Well, you're going to get that in your short-term memory if you do that, rather than your long-term memory. So you don't want to be cramming, you want to be studying throughout. And trust me, if your children are really doing their homework, if they're really doing their classroom assignments, if they're reading and they're paying attention, they should do pretty well. Keep your cool. You as the parent or the adult need to have a good positive attitude. If you're going, oh my gosh, those tests are next week, what are we going to do? Oh my goodness, your kids are going to pick up on that. They're going to pick up on your anxieties, and it's going to carry over to them. So you as the parent need to keep cool. We want to help our kids the best that we can, and we want them to be relaxed when they go to take those tests. And if we're hounding them every evening and every morning going, okay, baby, you got this test today. You got to do your best. Make sure you do your best. And as soon as they walk in the door or get in the car, how'd you do? How'd you do? How'd you do? That's going to freak them out. We don't want them to have that anxiety. Now, some kids, like my oldest, my Alan, he had test anxiety. And there wasn't anything I could do about it. I would try to, and he was, I'm telling you, he was a top student. He went to the governor's school back in the day when governor's school was still right in Coker College. But he had that test anxiety. And still is a nervous Nelly in some ways. But we, as the adults, want to try to keep things cool. Number 4 is to provide a quiet, well-lit area away from distractions for your child to do their homework. I don't know how different people do it. I grew up in a home I'm the oldest of 10 children. The 10th one wasn't born until after I was married and gone, but I could study in amongst all the commotion. I would sit on the middle of the living room floor with my legs crossed and books out, and I could do that. Some people can, but some cannot. My husband, he only had 2 brothers, and he made a study space in the side of a closet. He put a desk in there. It was a big walk-in closet, he tells me. I don't know, I never saw it. But he says he had his desk, and he would go in there, he'd shut his door, and he'd shut that closet up, and that's where he had to study because he needed that kind of quiet. So you need to make sure that your children have a place where they can study. We don't want that loud noise disturbing them. Count down the days to testing on a calendar. This will help to keep you both aware of when testing dates are. And unfortunately, I do not have the final or formal test scheduled. I wish I had it to give to y'all. But you may want to mark on your calendar when there's upcoming tests. Just so that you know. But it also helps your child to say, oh gosh, I've got that test coming up. Even if it's just a spelling test. I got a spelling test on Friday. I need to be studying a little bit every day to get prepared. Keep a routine bedtime, and this will ensure that your child gets enough sleep the night before the test. This is what we want. This is not what we want. The kids asleep on their desks. And as hard as it is, it really, really is important to have your kids on some sort of a routine. I know when my children were young, we had 8:30 bedtime when they were in elementary school. And we had a regular routine in the evening. We had our dinner. Then we had a quiet time when we didn't have TV on. We didn't have a lot going on. It was a time when they finished up their homework assignments if they hadn't finished before dinner. We would play family games, board games. We would make puzzles. We would read. It was a quiet time for about an hour. And then it was bath time, of course, and getting ready for bed. And then we had a little bit of time to watch a television show before they went to bed. And we always read stories. Even as they were up and older before they went to bed, we would read. But unfortunately, and you know, that didn't always happen every night, because you know, some nights we'd have church and we might be running a little late, or soccer practice or whatever. But we need our kids to get to bed at a decent time. I can't tell you how many children I've had over the years that just come to school exhausted. And think of yourself. If you come to work or whatever you're doing throughout your day and you've not had a good night's sleep, I'm telling you, I can't think. And I myself, as an adult, have to have that bedtime. You know, 10 o'clock, I'm into bed. Because I know I got to get up in the morning and be able to do my job. Make sure your child on the day of the test has a good breakfast. Now, I know we have breakfast in our schools, and yes, you know, that's okay if that's the routine that you and your family have established. But if you bring your child to school and they don't get there before breakfast time or whatever, make sure that they get a good breakfast on the day that they're having a test. You know, your brain needs that food. It needs that energy to be able to function. And please try to avoid the foods that are really high in sugar. I know my kids love those box cereals. And you've got to really watch, though, because there's a lot of hidden sugars in those cereals. Even in good, healthy things like fruit juice, and I'm not saying stay away from fruit and juice, but if they had too much of it, that's a lot of sugar. So help them with the kinds of foods that they eat. On the day of the test, especially when we come time for all this high-stakes testing and it's changing its name, now we've got the ACT and the ACT and SMIRE and work keys, and depending on the grade level, there's different tests now that they're doing. Make sure that your child is there on time. Now, if they ride a bus, generally they're going to get there unless there's been a problem with the school buses. But if you're bringing your children, make sure they are on time, because if they're rushing, it's going to cause them to be in a stressed situation. The teachers and the teachers have to collect the test materials at a particular time and bring them to the rooms. And we want that test security, and if kids are coming in late and all of that, it interrupts the testing. If your child comes in after testing starts, guess what? They don't get to take that test usually. They often have to sit and wait somewhere and take it on a makeup day. At least that's been at some different schools that I've been to. Don't know exactly how they do it here in Lee County since this is my first year here. But I have been in schools where if they come in too late, they have to sit in the office or in the media center or somewhere where there's no testing going on until the testing is finished. If your child takes some sort of regular medication, please, please make sure that they do indeed have it the day of the tests, because we want them to be at their best, especially those medications for attention deficit disorder and all those kinds of hyperactivity and that. We want them to be able to sit and focus, and if they've not had that regular medication that their body is used to, they're not going to be able to do that. So make sure. Now, on the other hand, we don't want kids come to school that are really sick. If your child is truly, truly ill, you know, with the flu or a horrible cold or whatever, please don't send them. Call the school. Let them know what's going on with your child. You know, if they need to, take them to the doctor. Get them healthy before they come back. And as a sidebar, that's not only good just for test-taking days. Of course, my experience is mostly with the little ones. And, you know, those little pre-K, kindergarten, first and second graders also, you know, they're touching each other and they're all over the place and into things. And we don't want them to infect the rest of the class or the teacher. So please, if your child is really, really sick, now you're going to have some kids that say on the day of a test, because they know there's a test that day, oh, Mom, I don't do that. I got a tummy ache, or I got a headache. And you are the parent. You know when your kids are really sick and when they're not. And you may say something like, well, sweetie, I'm sure you're a little bit concerned. You got a test today, but I want you to go and try. If you really, really are sick, please tell your teacher, you know, if this doesn't get any better. But a lot of times, the kids are just they're really okay. They're just fretting about that exam. On the day of the test, these are some reminders that you can give your child while they actually are going in to take the test. And I've got a lot of this stuff in your folders for you. Remind them that these tests, especially these high-stake tests that we're taking, are important and that they should try their best. These tests that we're taking not only reflect a particular student and their ability, which we do look at that and to know where we need to move those kids, but it also reflects on our schools and on our district as a whole. So these are very important tests that are coming up this spring. Make sure, remind them to listen to all of the instructions. When these tests are given, there's always some verbal instructions, and oftentimes, and especially for our older students, there are directions that they need to read. And they need to read through every bit of the directions and to read it carefully. And to make sure that they understand what it is that they're supposed to be doing. Tell them to use their time wisely. I've put in your packet a little sheet, and I thought this was really cute. And you could post this on your refrigerator even. I don't know about your refrigerator. Mine's got all kinds of stuff on it. But it's an acronym for LEARN. And the first one says, leave the hard ones for last. That's something that most everything that I've read said if you really don't know an answer, if you've eliminated all the possibilities that you know are not correct, and you still are not sure what that answer is, go ahead and leave that one blank and come back to it. Do your easy ones first. And make sure that they understand that these tests, most of them do have a time limit. So we need to work efficiently, but yet quickly. If they should get stuck on a question, make the best guess and then move on. Eliminate answer choices. And I noticed in your packets that Ms. Frederick put together for you, these navy blue folders, there's a really good booklet in the back. And it had some information about how to go about actually eliminating and making a best guess. I remember just this section right here. What is this? Pages 4 and 5. Here it's talking about eliminating some answers. Look for key phrases and things like that. It says using your process of elimination. This is really good. Talk about what answers just don't make sense, what answers might make sense, and try to make your best guess from the choices that are there. Your students, your children should try to answer all of the questions. We should not be leaving questions blank. I know there are some tests that I've had to take over the years, and if you leave it blank, that was okay. Not on these that we're doing. They need to really answer all of the questions. So remind them that when they finish, to go back over and make sure that they have bubbled in all their answers. And these things that I'm telling you, I know their teachers are going to be reminding them of these things as well. But it doesn't hurt if they hear at home and at school too. And then we want our children to stay focused. Remind them that this is important. They need to pay attention to what they're doing. They don't need to be worrying about what that kid's doing or over there, or be thinking about what they're going to do when they get home from school that day. They need to be focusing on that testing. And then this is just, I found a really cute website, and I hope I can make this work, that talks about test vocabulary. And I've given you some sheets in the packet that I've put together for you. of some different vocabulary. You know, testing uses different wording. And the students have been practicing, I can guarantee. They've been talking about these things in their classrooms. I've given you 2 different sheets here. This one is just a list of some different types of test-taking vocabulary. Analyze, compare and contrast, concluded, just going down, inferred. That's always a tough one for kids, where they have to read something and go, okay, it didn't exactly say that, but what do you think they were meaning by that passage? And then this other one I thought was a really cute exercise, and you can do this with your children, where you have them describe the clothing that the person sitting next to you is wearing. Identify the funniest show on television, and have them not just identify it, but tell why they think that's the funniest show on television. Explain, how do you get from your house to school? So they have to remember all these things. Oh, I go past here, and if you see this landmark and that thing, you know, that will help you to get there. Here's where that infer comes in. You danced with someone new at the school dance, and now your best friend won't talk to you. What can you infer from that? What do you think? Anybody got any ideas? What would the child infer? If they danced with somebody at dance and now their best friend won't talk to them, what can they infer?
The best friend liked the person.
Yeah, maybe the best friend liked the person. And so now they're mad at you because you danced with the girl or the guy that they liked. Yeah. So these are all very important things that the kids need to make sure that they understand. And you can play these games when you're riding in the car, you know, or sitting at the dinner table, those sorts of things. But let me play this song for you, because it was really fun.
I'd like to cross-examine the witness. Oh boy, here it comes. This guy. I have a few questions for you, sir. I think we're going to get to the bottom of what really happened. You accuse my client of stealing your car. Please describe everything you saw. Get specific with the details. Don't be vague. I saw around in my yard, around it. And how did you identify or recognize Ron? Explain or tell me why, because that seems odd. I can see his shirt and I can see his hat. What color was his hat? I think it was black. So you took an educated guess, inferred that Ron was the person you observed. Yeah. Well, let's develop this line of thought. Say more about why you thought it was wrong. I know Ron the punk was metal in his ear. Punks break the law. Come on, that's clear. So you're judging and evaluating my client based on his earrings and his personal style? Well, let me compare and contrast. Say how things are different or the same, in fact. A good witness watches carefully. Is he judging? Nah, just barely. A bad witness jumps to conclusions, makes up his mind quickly. That's foolish. Just because Ron is a toughish guy, that doesn't explain why or justify your accusation. On the trial for a crime I didn't do. I'm a witness to disaster. Tell me, do they know the truth? They got me on the trial for a crime I didn't do. I'm a witness to disaster.
This whole thing includes all those test-taking words.
So let's get back to the case. Just follow my directions when I say. Outline, summarize, quickly retell what happened. I saw a guy in my yard and then action. He smashed a chick window with a brick. I knew what would happen next. I could predict that he hot-wired my car, lickety split, put it in reverse, and he drove off quick. You concluded it was Ron based on his t-shirt? You came to that result from the facts that we heard? Well, it was sort of that, right? I don't see so good, but he's the only punk kid I know in the neighborhood. The way you interpret or make sense of the facts is insane, and everyone in this room knows that. The facts don't support your conclusion. They aren't evidence of what Ron's been doing. I can analyze your story, break the parts down, but on that night, Ron was out of town. He was at a punk festival in California, and I stole your car. Yeah, it was the lawyer. They got me on the trial for a crime I didn't do. I'm a witness to disaster. Tell me, do they know the truth? They got me on the trial for a crime I didn't do.
So you see how important it is to know what those terms are? Infer and describe and analyze. It's very, very important that our children know what all those words are. And I know their teachers work with that all the time, but we can never assume that the kids are going to have it all. And I think that's it. There it goes. But I do have in your folder for you as well some vocabulary flashcards. Now these are some things that you can take home with. These are for you. You can use them however you want. You'll need to take them, and they are these hard cards. I didn't divide them all up for you because I figured it'd be easier. You could do this when you get home. But I just printed these out. On one side is the word, and on the back side of it is a definition. So you can practice with these at home with your kids. You can do a couple a day. You can do some things where you can even, if you wanted to, take another card, and I was thinking later you could do some like memory game things where they have to match the definition to the word. There's just a lot of different ways, but this was something that we found and thought it might be beneficial for you to use with your kids. Helps you too if you're not sure what the definition for something is, what they need to do. For example, develop. What does that mean to develop? It means to add details to a basic plan or idea to make the meaning stronger or more impressive. It was like what they were asking in that little song, the details. What color was the guy's hat? You know, how tall was he? Develop the idea. Add details. So I hope that these are some things that help you in helping your child. If anybody has any questions, I can try to help you and answer if I can. But you know, if you do have questions later, feel free to contact me here at the district. And I'll be glad to, I don't always know the answers, but I'll be glad to do some digging and looking for you. All right? Thank you.
Thank you.